Welcome to all. Today we are going to discuss about the four dimensions of service management. The four dimensions of service management are introduced in Unit 1. So what are the four dimensional? To support a holistic approach to service management, ITIL definitions four dimensions are collectively are critical to the effective and efficient facilitation of the value for customers and other stakeholders in the form of products and services. So these are organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, value streams and processes. So now we are going to discuss about all these four dimensions which are represented in the respective ITIL practices. So first one is so this is a four dimension of service management. So they will sometimes they interact unpredictable ways depending upon the levels of complexity and uncertainty of the organization operates. So product and services, value will create, and partners and suppliers, value streams and process. Organization and people is the first one, information and technology, partners and suppliers, value streams and processes. So these four dimensions are most important to manage to dimensions of service management applied to all services being managed as well as SVS general. SVS means service value system. So first one is, now we are going to discuss about the organization and people. So what is organization and people? The complexity of organization is growing. Organization may include a person or group of persons. So complexity of the organizations is growing, and it is important to ensure that the way of organization is structured and managed, as well as its roles, responsibilities and system of authority and communication is well defined. For example, if it is useful to promote a culture of trust and transparency in an organization that encourages its members to raise and escalate issues and facilities corrective actions before any issue have an impact on customers. Adopting the ITIL guiding principles can good starting point for establishing a healthy organizational culture. People may be include consumers, customers, employees of suppliers, employees of service providers, other stakeholders. Other stakeholders may be employees of that organization, service providers, employees included. All these comes under people. So key element of this dimension is attention should be paid not only to the skills and competitiveness of teams or individual members. So practice evolves, people also need to update their skills and competitiveness. So people to understand the interfaces between their specializations and roles and those of other in the organization to ensure proper levels of collaboration and coordination. For example, in some areas, IT areas such as software development, user support, there is growing acknowledgement. Everyone should have a broad general knowledge about the other areas of the organization also, combined with a deep specialization in certain fields. Every person in the organization should have a clear understanding of other contributions towards creating value for the organization, its customers and other stakeholders. Information and technology. Detailed guidance on the role of information technology in IT service management can be in ITIL publications. When applied to the SVS, the information and technology dimensions include the information and knowledge necessary for the management of services as well as technologies required. It is also incorporates the relationships between different companies of the SVS, such as the inputs and outputs of activities and practices. The technologies that support service management include workflow management system, knowledge bases, inventory system, communication system, and analytical tools. So in these technologies will be supported by service management in all the aspects. In all aspects, service knowledge should be gained by the organization people, which includes management system, knowledge bases, inventory system, communication system, analytical tools, which they are providing the services to the consumer, or else which they are going to be used in the organization. That should be aware of all the employee should be aware of all these concepts. Service management increasingly benefitable development in technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other cognitive computing solutions, and in used at all levels, from strategic planning, portfolio optimization to system monitoring and user support. In context, IT services of this dimension includes the information created, managed, and used in the course of service provision. So the will be relation to the information component of the dimension. Organization should consider the following questions. First one is, what information is managed by the services? What type of information will be managed by the services? Will be aware of the organizations. Next, what supporting information and knowledge are needed to deliver and manage the services? How will the information and knowledge assets to be protected, managed, achieved, in and disposed of? So, for example, HR services are facilitates value creation for its customers by enabling the organization to access and maintain accurate information about its employees, their employment, and their benefits without exposure of private information to unauthorized parties. So, in this in this level the question the dimension includes the organizations how to manage the services, what type of services to be delivered and manage services, and what type of information and knowledge assets to be protected, managed, and achieved from the private networks. So in this information architecture of planning, various services need to be well understood and continually optimized, taking into account such criteria: availability, reliability, accessibility, timeliness, accuracy. So the nature of business is also affect to the technology. It makes use of, for example, company does significant business with the government clients may have restrictions on the use of some technologies or have significantly higher security concerns that must be addressed. Other industries such as finance or life sciences and also subject to restrictions around their use of technology. They usually, for example, they usually cannot use open sources and public services when dealing with the sensitive data. Best example is government used or government data is most important for the government. So the government doesn't provide any public services for the unauthorized access. Only authorized persons can interact with the system and they can use the data. That one is best example for that. And cloud computing, a model enabling on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources rapidly provided with minimal management effort or provider interaction. So in this cloud computing, IISM has more uh, focused on value for users and customers for years. Why? Because nowadays all were using cloud computing system, all organizations and individual customers also individual customers also using cloud computing systems. So generally usual technology agnostic, it will focuses on technology agnostic. What matters is not the technology, the opportunities it creates the customers. The key characters are on-demand availability, often self-service. It provides self-service and often internet access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, measured services. All these are provided by the cloud computing and replaces it will when the typical situation raises automatically. Cloud computing adopt different models that will replace some infrastructure previously managed by the service provider with a partner's cloud service, decreases or removes need for infrastructure management expertise, and shifts the focuses of service monitoring and controls the in-house infrastructure partner services, changes the cost structure of the service provider and introduces higher requirements, introduce new security when compliances are there, risk requirements are there, provides users with opportunities. Service level management provide practices are service level management, measurement reporting, information security management, service continuity management, incident management, problem management, service request management, service configuration management. Partners and suppliers include, so relationship between organization may involve various levels of integration formality. Partners and suppliers dimension encompasses organizations relationship with other organizations involved in design, development, deployment, delivery, support and other continuous improvement of services. It also incorporates contacts with other agreements between the organization and its partners and suppliers. So relationship, uh, this will this relationship between organizations will be like that. In the example, if the form of the cooperation, goods supply, outputs will be goods supplied. Next, responsibility for the outputs, supplier responsibility is to be supply the goods only to the organization or customer, whatever may be depending upon the situation. Goods supply has to be, supplier has to supply the goods. So next, customer responsibility is to achieve the outcomes whatever given by the supplier. Levels of formality is contract based, either contract based or invoices raising procedure. Levels of formality. Next examples, procurement of computers and phones. If there are any tender notifications, all those comes under the procurement of computers and phones, goods, whatever it may be, depending upon the organization area, they will apply to the suppliers for the goods, and the supplier has to supply the goods to the needed goods to the organization. In different levels, the formality will be there. Formality will be in the form of contract or invoices. Next, service delivery. Form of cooperation, service delivery means output service delivery is services delivered. Service delivery means, for example, cloud computer infrastructure is maintaining platforms such as service providers. Then formal agreements will be flexible cases. So customer responsibility is to achieve the services provided or delivered by the provider. So So what services they are providing, that will be maintained by the customer depending upon the guidelines of the guidelines and services guidelines and license provided by the organization. Next, service partnership. Service partnership means value co-creation is output, and responsibility for outputs means shared between the provider and customers. So if the customer and provider mutually understood and the customer accepts the services provided by the service provider, then if the services are provided by the service provider is good, then the value will be created by the customer. So levels of formality will be in the form of shared goals, generic agreements, flexible case based agreements, all those. Employee examples, employee on board shared in between HR facilitators and IT. So strategic focus. So factors influences an organization strategy when using suppliers include strategic focus. So some organization may prefer to focus on their core competency and to outsource non-core supporting functions. So third parties, they will encourage third parties may or may not, basing on the self-sufficient as possible, retaining full control over all important functions. Maybe other may be included with that. So strategic focus is the focus that organization may prefer, mainly focuses on the core competency and to outsource non-core supporting functions. Next, corporate culture. Some organizations have a historical preference for one approach over another. So long-standing cultural bias may be maintained in between the organizations. Automatically corporate culture may be difficult to change without compelling reasons. Resource scarcity. If a required resource or skill set is in short supply, then may be difficult for a service provider to acquire what is needed without engaging a supplier. So company has to these are the factors: cost concerns, subject matters expertise, external constraints, demand patterns. All these factors influences the suppliers suppliers uh, suppliers to maintain organizations strategies. The last one is value. Value applied by the organization and its spheres. So streams, processes, dimensions concerned with the various parts of the organization. The dimension focuses activities of the organization undertakes, how they organized, as well how they ensures organization ensures it is enabling value creation for all stakeholders efficiently and effectively. Value stream is a series of steps that an organization uses to create and deliver products, services to service consumers. A value stream is a combination of the organization value chain activities. So in this value stream, a series of steps may be there. The organization has to undertake to create, to deliver products and services to the consumer. So processes. Process is a set of interrelated and interacting activities that transforms inputs into outputs. A process takes one or more defined inputs or outputs, returns them into outputs. Process defines a sequence of actions, a dependency. So the organization maintains the process. It will include the activities of transform inputs into outputs. Process describes accomplish objectives. Well-defined process can improve productivity of the organization. External factors may be government and societal attitudes, economic and social factors, data protection and law regulations. All these are the external factors that are the that are not operated by the service providers. External factors affected by the uh, affected by the external these affected by the external factors that influences the organizational configure their resources and address their four dimension of service management. That's all.